Welcome to Relationships at Work, the guide for emerging leaders to create a workplace we love. I'm your host, Russel Lolacher. I'm a communications and leadership nerd with a couple of decades of experience in both of those areas. And I also have a heap of curiosity, a heaping of it on how we can lead and work together to improve the employee experience. And you do too, or you wouldn't be listening right now. This show, well, you're in luck. It's a great resource to help with that. Every week on the show, I talk with a local or global leader on topics that are here to help you improve the workplace. Whether we get into negativity, activism, empathy, communication, diversity, imposter syndrome, reimagining leadership, burnout, mental health, we get into a lot of it. And I really encourage you to check out the 60 plus episodes of this podcast to get up to speed, because there's a lot of great resources there and you will not be disappointed. And now, something else for you, an added bonus. I'll be sharing an additional episode pulled from the pages of our weekly Raw Notes, which you can actually still subscribe to as a newsletter. It's just a valuable bit of information on top of our regular show. So for this week's Raw Note, I'm passing on to you, curiosity beats assumption every single time. According to a 2018 survey conducted by Gallup, employees who demonstrate curiosity in the workplace are more likely to be innovative, adaptable, and high-performing. Specifically, this survey found that highly curious employees were more likely to generate new ideas and solutions, adapt to change, and find innovative solutions to problems. Even more, highly curious employees were found to be more engaged in their work and more likely to stay with their employer long term. So, yay for curiosity. So let's get into that. If you've been a longtime listener of the podcast or a follower of my work, you'll notice a reoccurring statement. Self-awareness and situational awareness, those are leadership superpowers, both of which are extremely vital in improving the employee experience as well. Self-reflection, assessing a situation, it's all data collection. But by increasing that curiosity, we're putting ego aside, real or perceived, and have the opportunity to have the biggest results in building connection and workplace culture. So, that curiosity, let's start with us. Because we can't help others if we don't help ourselves. It's like that metaphor of putting the air mask on ourselves when an airplane's having difficulty before we put it on anybody else. We have to make sure we're good before influencing others in making everything else good. All right, there you go. Where this can be the most effective is when we're entering a work situation where we're unfamiliar with the situation, whether it's meeting new people or learning about the work. It's vital then that we take that pause and get really curious. First with ourselves, and then those we're about to work with. So first ourselves. What is our mindset? What baggage are we bringing to this conversation? Do we have preconceived notions of the work? Why? How is our ego showing up? What is it saying? Do I need to talk at all? What value am I providing right now? And then get curious about them. Get curious about their work. Ask questions like, so what are you doing? Why are you doing that? Can you explain that again to me? Do you mind us having a separate meeting so you can get me up to speed so I can better understand? What are your biggest blockers? How can I help? What do you think is the most important thing I should be focusing on first? Sure, of course, we know our bubbles, our experiences, and our regular work colleagues really well. But that won't always be the case. Not if you want to grow and build new relationships within an organization or move to another organization. And the best way to address this is with curiosity. The worst way is assumption. Assuming you know the best approach. Assuming you know the strengths and weaknesses of the team. Assuming you know what's important and what's not. Assuming you know the value of the work or the best way to communicate it. Assuming you know how everyone works together. Curiosity breeds connection, while assumption, it still is that old saying, it makes an ass out of you and me. I remember traveling to Australia to work as a bartender. Now, I had already worked as a bartender for 5 years in Canada. And the standards of service back then in Australia versus Canada were very, very different because in Canada, there was very much a tipping culture, and Australia, there wasn't. So there's a bit of standards difference when it came to expectations around service and so forth. So when I got to Australia, I had that Canadian mentality of going above and beyond and really putting myself out there. Within Australia, it was just sort of like, you do the job. It's changed since then, but back in 1999, yeah, that's the way it was. So I didn't know that. I didn't know anything because I was new to the country, I was new to the culture, I was new to the service standards. So I stood back. I was a much stronger bartender than everybody else I had worked with. And that's not an ego thing. That's a 5 years of experience when everybody else was either just starting or had maybe 1 year under their belt. It was a very new crew. But I wasn't going to make any friends if I came in there going, but this is the way I do things. But no, that's the proper way. Immediately, I'd be putting walls up. I'd be pushing everybody else away just for my words. And that's not the experience I wanted. That's not the team that I wanted to be a part of. So the most important thing I could do was shut up and listen and just let them show their expertise. Open my mind to new things, because if I came in with assumptions, I'm not allowing them to do any of that. But by coming in with curiosity, it was one of the best experiences I've ever had, professionally or personally, because they opened my mind to new ways of working. They opened my mind to what success looked like, or at least in that culture and in that organization. So I've always really been a fan of curiosity over assumption. So here's some things to think about for yourself when entering a situation where you don't know the people, you don't know the culture, or you might not know the work. Cultivate an open mindset. Embrace the belief that there is always something new to learn and different perspectives to consider. Ask thoughtful questions. It can foster curiosity in yourself and others by asking those questions. Open-ended questions encourage exploration and discovery rather than seeking confirmation of your own ideas. And last, listen actively and learn. When others are speaking, give them your full attention and avoid interrupting or jumping to conclusions. Listen not only to the words being spoken, but also to the tone, the body language, and emotions being conveyed. And do that for a little while. Don't just check box it like it's a one and done, you did it at one meeting. This is an opportunity for you to sponge, to learn about what's going on around you. And you know what? You'll learn a lot. You'll earn a lot more respect. You'll get a lot more interest and curiosity about you and your works and your ideas if you lead that way. Building relationships at work starts with connection, and leading with curiosity and making it about them and not about us is key to creating that workplace we love. And that'll do it for another episode of Raw Notes passed on to you from Relationships at Work, the Emerging Leader's Guide to Creating a Workplace We Love. I'm Russel Lolacher. If you get a chance, I'd love you to check out our new YouTube channel. I've taken some of the best episodes and started uploading them every Friday, so you get to see our smiling faces, talk about these things that will really help us as leaders, as employees, as supervisors, really create a workplace that we're proud of, and that those who we are in charge of, those we work with, would also be proud of. Just go to Relationships at Work in your YouTube search browser, and there you have it. Thank you again for listening. I'm Russel Lolacher. Take care.